Good evening, welcome. Thank you for attending the Marion City Council meeting for July 6th, 2017. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Mr. Draper, Ms. Etzel,
Present.
Mr. Spinks, Mayor Abou-Osley,
Here.
Mr. Brandt,
Here.
Mr. Nicholson,
Here.
Ms. Pazor.
Thank you. At this moment, we have our moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, we have citizen presentations and comments. Just a word about that. I think there are probably people here to talk about a couple of things on the agenda tonight. So if it's already on an agenda item, such as fireworks or the parking issue, please hold off until the agenda item to address the council if you'd like to address the council. If you're going to address the council, we have these yellow cards that we'd like to have you fill out, preferably before you speak. Is that correct? Okay. And you can get them right there. Okay. And then when you address the council, please state your name and your address clearly. Okay? Thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to address the council on anything that's not on the agenda? Sir, please come forward.
Hi. I'm here with another homeowner to talk about the sidewalk that runs along East Robbins Road in Marion between Newcastle and the city border. Our development was built and they put this sidewalk in next to the road, and between our properties and that road there's a large berm with lots of trees and bushes, which makes it impossible for us to access that sidewalk and without a long walk. And I have some visuals, I guess.
And I think I think most of us are familiar with this area.
So I mean, basically,
it
it's a half-mile walk,
yeah,
one way to reach the area of the sidewalk behind my house. And so I'm looking for the city to take over maintenance of that, snow shoveling and mowing around it.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any other questions or any more information you need.
My question is there an association in your neighborhood? There isn't. Okay. I mean, that would make a difference, I think, if there was. But
I actually went out there and took a look at it in that area, and especially I think your lot and the one next to it, there's no access at all from their yard to even get back there. And I see that as being very problematic for those people living along that road. And it's my understanding that the city does maintain just further down the road. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes, the area where the detention basin crosses from the north side of East Robin Roads to the south, there's a small stretch of sidewalk that's city property, so we do maintain that at this time.
That's on city property,
That's correct.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions? So I think that we've received some correspondence regarding this, so I think that the staff will review it and then come back with a recommendation for the city council.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, thank you.
I had something to say as well.
Sure.
My name is Sarah Hora, and I live at 1444 Lane with my husband and 3 young children. We built and moved into our house February 14th, 2012, because of the semi-private tree-lined bush area in the backyard. The trees and bushes that line my backyard property line are so dense that I am unable to walk through it, which I actually like because it's a natural fence keeping my children in my yard. It also serves as a sound barrier from the traffic along East Robbins Road. When building our house with Skogman Homes, we asked about the sidewalk behind our house along East Robbins, and I was told that the city of Marion maintained it. I had no reason to question this statement because I have seen city crews cut the ditch and clear the snow in the winter over the years that I have lived there. I was recently advised by a neighbor that the city is no longer maintaining this area. My question is, in 2010 to 2011, when the sidewalk along the south side of East Robbins Road between the city of Cedar Rapids to Brookfield Drive in Marion was formally accepted by the city, why wasn't there a plan in place to advise of the 14 future homeowners of Forest Lane and Hawks Ridge Court that it would be their responsibility to maintain this sidewalk in this area if they chose to purchase a lot? This sidewalk is not easily accessible for most property owners due to the hill grade and dense shrubs and bushes. My property line ends just over the shrub line hill and is roughly a 20-foot hill downhill to the edge of the sidewalk along East Robbins Road. For the past 5 years, I have seen city crews clearing the sidewalks and ditch area, and in August of 2014, the city of Marion added more sidewalk along the south side of East Robbins Road between Brookfield Drive and Newcastle Road, and is currently on the city of Marion's Parks Department winter maintenance schedule according to the monthly report on January 24, 2017. And since this stretch of sidewalk is maintained by the city of Marion, I too am requesting that the city of Marion continue to maintain the sidewalk behind my property that is between the city of Cedar Rapids to Brookfield Drive. I believe the city of Marion also maintains the access to the emergency alert siren that is along the same stretch of sidewalk. I appreciate your consideration to this matter and ask that the city continue maintaining the sidewalk and the right-of-way behind my property. And there are additional pictures that you can all look at for yourself.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just any question, any
Any
questions?
questions?
Got one for Beth.
I mean, just as a quick response to one of your questions, I mean, the city wouldn't normally, I think, notify every potential homeowner that they have to take care
But
of
wasn't there a plat
sidewalk.
drawing that was done prior to that being a subdivision and then a sidewalk put in place? Wouldn't that have been a discussion on some type of plat drawing?
What,
The sidewalk was required as part of the plan of improvements for the project and from the subdivision. And Skogman at that time was told that they would be required to maintain it as part of their subdivision requirements.
which is the case with all subdivisions, right?
Sure,
So
yeah.
the city wouldn't make any special effort in one case to notify
Why are
potential
they
homeowners.
continuing to,
But
we've seen crews out there cleaning it then? That's what I don't understand is why it was being maintained by the city.
I think we've made some efforts, Mike's made some efforts to clean up the area.
Mike,
Go ahead, Mike.
Your Honor, if I could, that area, it actually is about 1,500 feet of sidewalk that runs from to the west city limits. We received last year and years before several complaints of the overgrown bushes along there. So we did send crews out last summer and cleared the brush back along there. To the best of my knowledge, we have not sent crews up there in the wintertime removing snow off the sidewalk. But I can speak to the activity of clearing the brush back. We felt that it was a necessity to get that cleared back. We're talking about issuing nuisance abatements to 14 property owners. So we just felt it was necessary to take some action and to lessen the burden on those homeowners. So we did send staff out there and clear the bushes and the brush back so the sidewalk was passable.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you for your comments. I think the staff will look at it and make a recommendation to the council, correct? Or,
Yes, yeah, I think you're looking at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure it gets taken care
oh,
of.
I'm sorry, Mike.
We'll look into it.
Okay. We have to be concerned about precedent. If we take care of one neighborhood's sidewalks, are other neighborhoods going to ask to have their sidewalks taken care of? So we have to think about those things. This does, I think, have some special considerations because of the way it is and the accessibility to it. So that may be a consideration. But we'll see what the staff comes back with. And then
Council did address this about 18 months ago or so.
I do recall that
yeah.
we did talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah, that is correct. That did come before the council in February of 2016 and reviewed the same circumstances at that time.
Yeah, and which is why I asked if there's a association, because that would be, if there was an association, then that it could be taken care of through the association in terms of having the work done by, hiring it out to someone or something like that. But you have something else to add? You need to come to the microphone to address us. Thank you, because we want everybody to hear what you're saying.
My question is, who was here then? I wasn't aware that anyone had come to the board at that time.
From your neighborhood?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't recall.
We can find out if you want to leave your name and address for us. Or once she probably has it, so we can find out.
They got it.
There was a request sent to council.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We will look at it again.
Question. Yes. I just had a question. Are there sidewalks in front of the homes and in the back?
Yes, it's a double frontage.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else to address the council? And any issue that's not on the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll move on to the consent calendar.
Should we give him a second to get up here?
Yeah. We'll give Councilman Draper a minute to be seated.
Sorry for my tardiness, Your Honor, and my dress as well. It's been a busy 2 days.
You understand? Okay.
Yes, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented, which would be items 1 through, let's see, 5, A, B, C, excluding D, E, 6 through 11, excluding 12, 13 and 14, and adding in 16A. Okay. Which would be resolutions 26157 to 26159, 26161 through 26167. Yes, was that correct? Does that sound right?
Okay. Is that correct?
I took 12 out.
It's been moved and seconded to, I'm sorry, do we have a second?
Second.
There we go.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented, excluding item 5D and excluding item 12,
And adding.
and including item 16A, which is from the next section. Okay? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved. Dave?
All right, let's see if I get this correct here. I recommend approval of item from To approve the consent calendar with Mayor Abbas-Ali's abstention from voting and discussion regarding the following items as presented. Item number 15, 16B and C, and items 5D and 12
Also 17.
and 17.
Yep.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar with the mayor's abstention and from voting and discussion, including item 15A, items 16B, C, and item 17, and item 5D and 12. Discussion.
No discussion on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I voted aye as well on that.
Okay. Moving on to the police section. We have a discussion regarding a recent event at Cocktails. Chief?
Good evening. To remind council, there was an event at Cocktails Nightclub a couple weeks ago. The event got a little out of hand and a little inappropriate, we feel, for our community. Very large crowd, and in the assessment and looking at in retrospect on the signature of the home hold harmless, we've done an after action tonight to present on that event and what we encountered for our future reference when approving hold harmlesses for that organization. Lieutenant Mark Murda is going to give you just a brief executive summary based on what happened that night.
Thank you.
Your Honor, Counsel.
Welcome.
Just want to give a brief overview of what the department and the officers itself came into contact with on June 17th. Cocktails advertised this as the first outdoor event, summer event that they're holding, and we, as a department, did sign off on the hold harmless agreement, and we had 2 officers assigned to the event that were working overtime as an extra work position, and they quickly found themselves severely outnumbered by the number of tickets that were sold to this event. The crowd grew to what the event organizers and the cocktails themselves had said. They sold between 800 and 1,300 tickets for this event, which was held in their parking lot. What we found very inappropriate for this type of event was the acts that performed were encouraging drug usage, and they were using vulgar language throughout the event. And I'm sure you probably have heard from people in your wards, and then we have received several calls on ourselves about the language and the level of the sound and the bass that was heard clearly from people on Dry Creek Lane specifically that wrote letters, and it's over a half mile away, direct line of sight to their residence. So the sound level was an issue, the vulgar language was an issue, the encouraged drug use was an issue, the size of the crowd. We had, the shift supervisor had to help staff the event with personnel from his own shift, and anytime throughout that evening we had 11 officers there to help manage that crowd because of the alcohol, obviously, that was being drank. And we had 4 calls for service there that specifically related to alcohol usage. 1 person required medical attention for the alcohol use. We did make 1 arrest that evening for public intoxication. In retrospect, as a department, we are going to be reviewing our practices and how we're reviewing these hold harmless agreements before we sign off on them. I think it's in the best interest of the public and the people taking our participating as concert goers, or whatever you want to call them, as well as the officers themselves for safety reasons. So it's something we are definitely going to be reviewing.
I think we have to be very careful as an organization not to prejudge behavior and content on an event when we sign off on these things. When we sign off on them, we have to be respectful to different needs of the community and the individuals that want to maybe listen to things that I don't want to listen to. But in this case, the event was out of hand. We got outnumbered very quickly. We had a beer get thrown at an officer, and our officers showed a great deal of restraint. And for the community that lived around there to be subjected to the noise level and what was happening at that establishment, in my opinion, was inappropriate. Lesson learned here. You don't know what's going to happen when you sign off on those things. You can think you know what's going to happen, but you get yourself in a real pickle if you prejudge events based on what you think could happen. And so I think there's lesson learned for us, and we're going to leave it upon Cocktails to, when they have an event, that they're going to have to prove to us that they're a good steward of this community and in doing things in the best interest of this community, because on that night it was not an event that was in the best interest of this community.
When the hold harmless agreement was reviewed and approved, was there a maximum capacity?
I contacted Wade Markley from the fire department, and there was not a designation for occupancy for within. They did have the parking lot fenced in, and he said he thought they could probably hold 3,000 people in there.
Okay.
But it's hard to say. I mean, it's a parking lot, and so we'll be working.
So that's not part of the review process?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yes, it is.
We'll be working closely with the fire department on these events, too, in the future. So.
Okay. Well, we appreciate the report and the update on it. I know I did receive a few emails from people who heard the music quite a ways away, and
there was countless calls that came into the police department that didn't get dispatched just because officers were already there.
Yeah. Okay.
In violation of the noise ordinance, the PD have fining ability or ticketing ability, or what? How can we handle that, Chief?
We're actually drafting a new noise ordinance for council to consider at the next session that will be much easier to enforce, that doesn't rely on decibel meters, and it'll help us a lot, I think, moving forward with this type of situation.
Good, because it took everybody on duty, basically off duty, and that's a dangerous situation.
We had people that were working other extra work jobs that as soon as they left that position, they got reassigned to there, and so we had people starting their shift early, people that stayed over late from their shift, so it was quite labor intensive.
Okay. Thank you.
Your Honor, I have Resolution 26,171 approving a 2080 agreement between the City of Marion and Lynn County Fire Rescue Services regarding a mutual assistance agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 26171, approving a 2080 agreement between the City of Marion and Lynn County Fire Rescue Services regarding mutual assistance. Discussion?
I guess nothing's changed.
No,
Okay.
Nothing's changed.
Okay. Other discussion or questions? Okay, we'll vote. All those in favor of resolution number 26171, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Okay, the motion passes. At this time, we have an update regarding fireworks.
Yes, Chief McHale and I both, I think, emailed all of you with the reports that we have so far of what occurred during this fireworks season. The fire department responded to 2 grass fires, 2 dumpster fires, and 1 critical patient due to fireworks. That patient was transported to the University of Iowa burn unit. It was not publicized. He was seriously injured. But those were our only calls that were related to fireworks. I received over 60 complaints by phone, email, and the website at my office. And so far, that's what I've heard. Most of the complaints had to deal with concern about their pets, concern about children being able to sleep at night, the debris in their yards caused by the fireworks. There was a lot of concern about their house or garage or catching on fire because of the debris that was flying through the air and would land on roofs. So that was most of our complaints. A lot of people said they'd like to shorten it to 1 day, maybe 2 days, but that's it. And a lot of people said they want them banned altogether. So those are the complaints I received. I did receive 2 calls in favor of fireworks. And so that's the report I have from the fire department. I'll let Chief McHale speak for the police.
Sure, really just trying to break it down into 2 categories for you. Calls that we responded to that we felt we needed to respond to do some further investigation to ensure the safety of the public, and then calls that we received that simply weren't a violation of the law. Calls that we really feel that was just a misunderstanding of the law, fireworks that were being shot off legally, that we just simply did not respond to. Of the calls that we actually respond to ensure public safety, we responded to 183 calls. Calls that we received with complaints or questions about fireworks that we did not respond to based on our matrix was 173. So that's roughly about 350 calls for service. We did make 5 arrests for illegal use or use of fireworks after hours or as the law dictates. And we did do a proactive enforcement project on the vendors themselves to assess the sale of fireworks to underage people. And we did make arrests at 5 of the 7 stands for sale to minors. So I'll be honest with you, what occurred the last couple of weeks was absolutely no surprise to me. I think that we need to further find a balance. And if you go back a month when we started these discussions, I believe it was the opinion of public safety that the entire month was way too long, and that almost the entire month of December pushing into January was completely inappropriate. And that's why we tried to make a recommendation of a balance for the council to consider of greatly shortening that time span. I think I'm in agreement with Chief Deb that public safety would defer to the wishes of this community and council, and we will take action to make sure that we do the best job we possibly can to provide the level of public service and safety that this community expects.
Okay. Any questions for the chiefs?
You said arrests. You mean citations or arrests?
Citations.
Okay. And then
we didn't haul anybody off.
Okay. What's the fine? What's the fine for using them illegally, and what's the fine for the business that sold them to minors?
Can you answer that question for me?
Yes, $250 for both.
And is that set by the state?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Set by the state code.
So we can't go any higher than that at all?
Further offenses go up.
Okay, so first offense, $250.
Yeah, if you have a second offense,
Okay.
it goes to $1,000.
Okay.
The schedule of fines
Or
is
arrest.
set by the state code.
Yes.
I think what Councilwoman Will is asking is, can we make that even? Can we add to it? Make the fines more?
Yes, I believe we can.
Oh, we
It's
higher?
up to the city. Yes.
Okay.
If we do write an ordinance, which we need to do, as you remember, you passed a resolution for the time limits because we were under a time constraint of the legalization by the state, and there were vendors wanting to sell immediately. So we kind of hurried it through with the resolution. Mm-hmm. But from here on, we do need to make an ordinance. So in that ordinance, we can discuss those kind of things. Mm-hmm. If you want fines to change or...
Yeah, I mean, I think we all received lots and lots of emails and phone calls and comments. We did receive a couple that were in favor, but the majority were people who had lots of concerns. I think legitimate concerns about safety and violations of the ordinance. People using the fireworks off of their own property, people using them at hours beyond the restrictions, and people using them irresponsibly. And I think it needs to be said that the city, and not really all cities in Iowa, didn't just wake up one day and said we need to legalize the use of fireworks. We had a very short time period to react to a state law passed by the legislature to legalize the sale of fireworks in Iowa. And we were faced with, having to come up with a policy on the use, realizing that a complete ban would be impossible to enforce. And we relied on our safety officials to make a recommendation. As Chief McHale noted, we shortened the window of time set by the state code. Obviously, I think a lot of people think that's too long, and we need to consider that further and see about the possibility of further tightening those rules. And hopefully we'll come up with a good balance. I think there is something to this with the newness of the whole thing. Maybe in future years it would calm down a little bit more, but we don't know that for sure. And none of us had the experience of past years of to know how it would go and what would actually happen. So I do appreciate all the comments people have been sending, and people for the most part have been very responsible and respectful in making their comments. I think they're sharing their legitimate concerns, and we need to take those into consideration. People have even suggested ways that we can improve our ordinance. People have been trying to make helpful suggestions and give ideas. So I do appreciate that. At the end of the day, we're all a community and we're all neighbors. And I think, it's unfortunate that this whole thing has put people in a position where they're in conflict with their neighbors. And that's the most unfortunate part about it, because it's created a situation where people are in conflict with their neighbors over the use of these things. So, but we as a city council, I think, need to consider it further and consider all the comments that we've received and try to come up with a policy that has a good balance, keeping in mind that people are going to be able to buy them regardless of whether or not we ban it completely. People will be able to buy them in Marion, and they're going to. If they buy them, they're going to use them. So that's my comments on it. But
I just wanted to also reiterate what you just said, too, is that as the state law, we cannot ban the sale of fireworks in the city. And I'm sure we all had some emails that people were saying we need to ban the sale of them. Well, unfortunately, we can't. It's against the state code. So.
And, really the speed with which this all had to happen didn't give the city enough time to publicize the ordinance and the restrictions in the ordinance well enough. So hopefully going forward now we would have the ability to make sure that information is out there. People know the hours. People know the days that they can use the fireworks.
I have a quick question for you, Deb, too.
Yes.
So when we first were discussing this, you said that there was going to be like a flyer handed out with every sale to.
Yes.
Was that checked to make sure that they were doing that and
We
everybody
did
knew?
check.
And they were.
We had to remind them quite often.
Doesn't surprise me. Okay.
Is there anyone here who wanted to address the council on this issue?
I had several emails too, and a lot of people were concerned about their safety. And this landed in my mother's yard, and this is pretty dangerous if this would come down, at you. I'm just wondering, can we limit, or do we have any say in what they can sell in the tents?
There are communities around the United States that restrict certain types of fireworks, airborne fireworks, and they restrict it to ground contact. They restrict bottle rockets. So absolutely, yeah, you could restrict the types of fireworks that are allowed. There's the whole gamut across the United States. There really, truly is, and something you could look at.
Yeah, I had one of those on my roof yesterday morning, I noticed, so yeah. Luckily, it didn't burn my house down.
I got probably 30 emails, and the thought occurred to me that if we have 30 people emailing who don't like the fireworks, you got 30 people shooting them off who do like them. So, I wrestled with it some and thought, if we're not comfortable with doing something, we know we have to allow them sales, that maybe we want to take 2 or 3 options and put it on a ballot. We have an election in November, and let the people decide what they want. I mean, what I'm hearing is they're saying, hey, you guys are making all the decisions. Well, we made the best decision we could make at the time, but it would be a pretty simple thing when you already have an election law. I don't think it costs any extra money to put a question on the ballot, does it?
No, not during a normally scheduled election, no.
So that might be something we might consider, Mayor. Choose 2 days, 1 day, or whatever, and figure it out.
Okay.
Is that something that can be on the ballot?
We'd have to take a look and see. For a normal question like the use of dollars or projects or something like that, it wouldn't be appropriate. But if it were structured in such a way that it was actually made a charter amendment, it possibly could be. But that's the only way I could see that you could put it out there. It actually would have to be embodied as part of the city charter.
Okay. Was there anyone here to address the council on this issue? Sir, come forward. And then you can go next, okay?
I think there's a few.
Yeah. And we appreciate all your comments. I would just say that if someone has already made a comment, maybe say something that add to it rather than repeating the same thing that other people have said. Thank you.
Jim and Donna McCabe, 1960 39th Street here in Marion.
Yes.
Again, this is probably echoing what people are saying, and this may be a first-year phenomenon. We don't know. Certainly it's a lot louder than I expected.
Yeah.
In Marion, where there's small lot sizes, you've got people quarter acre less. My major concern is not necessarily if an individual buys them, because that's up to them if they want their hand blown off necessarily, But my major concern is, like you say, the airborne things, the debris, the potential fires for other people, and I don't know how much risk that is, but I think that's something's going to happen in the future for us. So that's my concern. This is my wife, Donna.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's see, it was the July 4th that I was out, and I saw a big ember, and it floated across the sky, and I wasn't sure what it was, but I watched for a while, and my neighbor also saw it later, and finally we did see it burn out. It was an ember, rather large. It could have fallen on somebody's house. So the danger is high. The noise was also extremely annoying. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
That was probably what they call a Chinese lantern.
Okay.
They can be extremely
Ladies,
dangerous.
if you can come forward and that's fine. And then,
My name is Bev Hodel, and I live on the corner of 31st and McGowan. And my neighbors across the street, their house faces the side of my house where my garage and my privacy fence and everything is. And one of the things I don't understand is, why are they in their front yards throwing this stuff over the streets? Why isn't there some rule they have to at least be in their backyards? I was coming down McGowan in my car one day, right in front of the car. The guy was out on the parking on the street. This doesn't even make sense to me. And all of these were in my yard. And I didn't call the police because I felt they would probably just go buy some more and just do worse. But they hit my house. They hit my garage. They came over the fence onto my patio. And one of those things that lady was just speaking of burst over my patio, and little white things. It sounded like pebbles was hitting the side of the house and the concrete. And it was little white chalky pebbles. Like, it had to be one of those things she's talking about. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
okay. Thank you. Ma'am?
My name is Diane Hotelling, and I live at 855 Alexis Lane. And I would strongly urge this council to reconsider the regulations you have implemented surrounding this new law. I understand and feel sorry for the position that you were in. You didn't ask to be in this position. I know that you had to come up with something on the fly. I think we all recognize that they passed this law and then they said, hey, cities, you deal with it. So I know it's a tough situation to be put in, but I'm hoping that you'll give it more thought than what our state legislators did. Considering what we've had to deal with the last 2 weeks, I would urge that you ban the use of fireworks altogether in Marion, as they have done in Iowa City, Coralville, and Dubuque. And as of last night, Davenport reinstated their ban immediately, effective immediately. Now, I think that's a little much, but nevertheless, they've done that. And I understand the Cedar Rapids is revisiting theirs as well. This morning, the Gazette headlines were, booming business leads to expansion in Iowa. Well, that's what our state legislators wanted. It was all about money, and that's what they've gotten, not giving any thought to what the residents of Iowa might think about it. This new law gave no consideration to the small children who are scared, and their parents are trying to console them, or the parents who are trying to put their kids to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock. Small children go to bed early. No consideration was given to our vets who have PTSD or autistic children who experience ill effects from loud noises. No consideration was given to many, many pet owners, which I know is in this room. Personally, I have an 8-year-old dog that has been so traumatized that she won't stay outside. I can't get her to go for walks. And when she's in the house, she spends most of her time under the bed or in the bathroom, huddled in a corner. She constantly has her ears back, looking at the ceiling and waiting for the next big boom. I have to medicate her, and that's not even working. I don't know that she'll ever be back to normal. I hope so. There was no consideration given to a taxpayer, an average taxpayer like myself, who expects a quiet, peaceful neighborhood to come home to after a very long day at work. At this point, I feel that my rights are being trampled on to only satisfy a few who want to participate in this activity. I feel like a prisoner in my own home, having the door shut, windows closed, shades drawn, because my terrified dog, it's upended my whole entire life for the last 2 weeks. In my neighborhood, since the new law went into effect, fireworks have been shot off every single night from about 5 to midnight, and some nights it was later, 1 o'clock in the morning. It's not just a now and then thing, it's a constant barrage. Every 2 to 3 minutes or less, you hear them, especially when they're setting them off 2 or 3 at a time, and you've got several neighbors doing it. You're surrounded. And it's not the small little illegal firecrackers that we're used to hearing that people off in the distance are doing. It's the big, loud booms that would make any person jump when you're sitting in your living room watching TV. Just because your neighbors, as has been said, just because they're shooting them off on their own properties, doesn't mean these stay in their own yards. They are going above all of our houses. And in many of our subdivisions, our houses are only feet apart. So when they set them off in their yards, it might as well be yours. And as was stated, an unintended consequence in all of this is that it has pitted neighbor against neighbor. Those that want to light fireworks and those who do not want a steady diet of listening to them. Unlike our state legislators, I implore this council to take all this into consideration when making your final decision. You could make the headline in the Cedar Rapids Gazette go away. If enough cities would ban the use of fireworks, there would be no reason for people to buy them if they can't use them. Further, if they are fined heavily, like you mentioned, when caught using them, that word will quickly get around, just like the word has gotten around about speeding in Marion. I know I've had personal knowledge of that. Finally, if you can't see your way to banning them altogether, I appeal to you to at least severely limit the time period from 2 weeks to a couple of days, the 3rd and the 4th. Same for at the end of the year. I also think the 11 o'clock curfew is too late. Remember, someone is working the next morning. Not all of us have a Friday or a Monday to Friday job. So I think 10 o'clock is late enough to be shooting off fireworks if you choose to go that route, which I hope you do not. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Em?
Thank you for hearing me. My name is Ruth Zanoni, and I live on Portsmouth Circle in
Welcome.
Marion. I'm new here. The fireworks were a complete shock to me. I have an autistic child. My daughter has spent the last couple weeks barricaded in her room each night, covered. She's terrified. She hyperventilates. I haven't called the police because my neighbors have followed the time restrictions. But it's constant. It's a barrage. And I don't know if you know what autism is like, but people with autism quite often perseverate. So this is going to be a constant concern of hers for the next year, that it's coming. I was so grateful last night when my immediate neighbors did not let off fireworks. And she began to come out a little bit. But it was a huge concern in my immediate family and for all vulnerable people like my daughter. 1 in 68 children in 2014 in this country that were born have autism. That ratio is getting smaller, so I know my daughter's not alone in this county or this city for being afraid of the fireworks. The fire concerns are huge, as our previous speaker said, and also the safety of young children. I was shocked and alarmed to see little children running near where the fireworks were being let off. And they were so close, these huge airborne fireworks, to my home. I felt like I could reach out and touch them. And there were large embers on our stonework yesterday morning. We're going to have our roof inspected for safety. The trash and debris, I've heard so many people speak about, and we've seen things here today. And so I do ask that these are regulated very carefully and strict enforcement of the regulations, that people know that Marion takes this seriously, the safety of our communities. And we should have some community firework display that people can go to and enjoy and come together to really celebrate together. That's the reason for fireworks, I thought. Or at least that's what I was told when I was raised. And finally, at a minimum, shorten the duration. July 4th, stopping at 10 o'clock at night. And I thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am? Can I just have a show of hands of who else wants to? Go ahead, come on forward, ma'am. Yeah. Who else would like to speak on this topic? 2 more? Okay.
Hi, my name is Cindy Kressig, and I live at 2230 McGowan Boulevard. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Mayor, and council members, and everyone else. We love this community. We love Marion. We've been here over 25 years, and we love it here. I'd like to address the Blue Zone project. The City of Marion has a website page dedicated to the Blue Zone project. It's very proud of its status, and it should be. In 2013, Marion became a demonstration site, and 18 months later, it was designated as the first Blue Zone community in the corridor. The website says, and I quote, "Learn how Marion is putting well-being on the map." Besides causing anxiety and stress for humans and animals, fireworks contain sulfur, trace heavy metals, toxic chemicals, and gases. The gases can cause people with asthma and other breathing problems to have medical issues. The toxins and the poisons get absorbed into the soil and our water. This is completely in opposition with the Blue Zone project. So I respectfully request that the City Council follow what other towns have done and ban fireworks completely. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ron Kressig. I live at 2230 McGowan Boulevard. I just want to rebut a comment that one of the council members said, that if you received 30 complaints, you probably also had 30 people firing off fireworks. I did a little informal tour of myself, and I know it's just anecdotal, but one night there were so many fireworks and we had so many so much debris in our lawn and our roof. I thought, well, I'm going to go out and see who's actually doing this, because if my house catches on fire, I want to have at least a few suspects. I went through our neighborhood, and it seemed to me that the use of the fireworks was really concentrated in a few number of people. And it kind of goes to your vote of, should the city of Marion take a vote on this, and will it come out 50-50? Just from my perspective, I think there's a lot of people that aren't using them, and the use is very concentrated. That's just from my informal review, but thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am?
There you go. Good evening, folks. I could reiterate everything, and I agree with everything that's been said here, but I happen to be one of those people who has been impacted physically from this. I haven't needed a breathing I have a breathing problem. The sulfur and the problems that I'm having with asthma, I haven't had them for months. I'm now on a nebulizer because of the crap that's in the air. I do have dogs, and the dogs are absolutely insane. I'm pretty much a prisoner in my own home. I have to keep the windows closed, but it's the breathing. I've lived here for 18 years, always felt like Marion was a clean, safe place to be, where I didn't have to worry about pollution. I'm from a big city, and pollution does impact people with breathing problems. I've been greatly impacted by this, and I do agree with, so let them sell them here. Let's ban them so that we can return to a little bit normal life, and some of us who either have animals, small children, autistic family members, or in myself, breathing issues, don't have to be on medication just to be able to live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Your Honor, while he's coming up, I had a question of the chief. What kind of apparatus was it that person was burned with?
It was called a shotgun.
Was it something that went up, or?
No, it was box-like with different explosives in it, tubes that go off.
They go at the ground level, though?
No, from what I understand, he was holding it on his head.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
So.
Your Honor, members of the council, Tim Gorton, 2575 Boulders Drive, Marion.
Welcome.
I've sent an email to you, and I'll tell everyone here, I am a supporter of the usage of fireworks in Marion. I do appreciate the comments here, and I appreciate the consideration that the council originally provided when you guys debated this for the first time. I was here for that event. I know you guys, struggled with what to do with it. I want to apologize. I consider myself a thoughtful person, considerate of my neighbors. I tried to plan with them as far as the usage of fireworks, and so I want to apologize for those people that aren't considerate of their neighbors. I and my sons went around after we shot ours off, and we picked up the neighborhood. We tried to make sure that when we did shoot them, we're shooting them on a calm day. You got to take into consideration wind and so forth, and elevation for anything that's shot in the air. The other thing I wanted to add is I certainly think there are some things we could do to mitigate the concerns here. Whether it's form a citizens advisory group or something like that. I understand that the police force is limited in your resources, as well as the fire department. And so if there's something that we as citizens can do to better educate and manage our fellow users, I would certainly be in favor and willing to support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't fill out a card.
Sure, please come forward. Does this state your name and your address, and then
My
fill out
name
the card
is
later?
Moretta Portsline. I live at 2160 24th Street. I understand the desire to shoot off fireworks. It's not mine, but I understand that everybody doesn't agree with me. So I don't have an issue with that. I would like it shortened, but I wonder if, I know, I didn't even know that it was from the 24th of June. I didn't know what Marion's was because my neighborhood, I think, has been going off almost the whole month of June. 3 or 4 neighbors in my neighborhood, so they obviously did not know what your regulation was either. So my question is, how will you get it out to people what you end up deciding? Because you send stuff in the mail, you send stuff in the paper, but people can't even put their garbage out, right? Because they don't read what you send them about what days it goes and stuff. So how will you get across to people when the actual time frame is? And I also understand that it's not allowed in parks, but what about if you designate a baseball diamond 2 nights during the season, have everybody bring their own fireworks out there, shoot them off there where they're not in every single neighborhood or whatever, and all the people that enjoy it can go out there and watch, and everybody else doesn't have to listen to it every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else? Yes. Okay. Come forward.
I live at 2315 Tamarack Drive. I'm with Last Hope Animal Rescue, and one of the problems that we're seeing with the fireworks in both Cedar Rapids and Marion is dogs running away from their homes, dogs getting so anxious and excited and basically insane that we're seeing more dog bites. Dogs that have never been afraid of fireworks, such as my own personal dog, when they deal with it night after night after night. And we're not talking bottle rockets. We're talking the kind of fireworks that they have downtown, where your whole house shakes. There's no place for them to go. They can't go to the basement. They can't go under the bed. There's nowhere for them. They won't go out and go to the bathroom. But I'm just concerned about general safety to the public with animals. And like I said, we have seen more increase of dog bites, people complaining that because their dogs are literally insane from the fireworks, they don't know how to control their dogs. So we're taking some calls on that. I just feel like everything in this state, in this community more is about money. Follow the money, follow the money. And I'm just curious if we're getting a 1% sales tax, if maybe that's why we're legalizing them so long. I've talked to some kids that when they're on every corner, when they run out of them, they go buy more. When they weren't sold in this state, they had to go to Missouri or wherever and get them, and they weren't running down there every weekend. And I know there's nothing you guys can do about that, but there is something you can do about making them illegal, or perhaps just have them on the 4th of July or the day before the 4th and the 5th. I think people will be able to control their animals. People who have children with PTSD can maybe take them out of, out of the country for a drive or whatever. I'd like to see them illegal the whole time, but there should be some something we can do, like some common ground. But something needs to be done. This 2-week period is way too long. People are drinking. Some people in my neighborhood were drinking heavily. They set off fireworks. Instead of going up, they went to the side. One went into this neighbor, and shot across the street in another neighbor's. Well, I saw a fire start. Luckily, the grass isn't dry right now in July like it has been, and they were able to put the fire out. I think if we continue on this pattern next year, we'll have, maybe it might be drier. We might have more fires. I think we need to take action now. Let's not wait till something serious happens. Let's not have a community like Swisher who has a mother and a baby at the university because fireworks were shot at them. I just cannot believe I've lived in this town my whole life. I'm 50 years old. My whole life, I have never seen my community like this. I've never seen people afraid to go outside. I've never seen dogs afraid to go on walks. This is ridiculous. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor, one final thought on enforcement. In the talk of neighbor versus neighbor, the Marion Police Department, when we try to conduct enforcement on fireworks violations, first of all, we have to have a complaining party, unless we witness it ourselves, and everybody knows when the police car pulls on the block and it's going off illegally, they tend to stop and go inside. So looking at enforcement is going to be very difficult. We will do enforcement. We're not afraid of that. And as the lady said, we're not afraid to do enforcement. But you have to have a witness. And you have to have a witness that's willing to testify if the officer hasn't seen it himself, which what I'm hearing from the public tonight does pit neighbor versus neighbor. a neighbor having to testify in a court of law on what they saw the other neighbor do for us to present a summons to that individual. And so it's going to be problematic. We'll do it. And I think we'll do a really good job to our best of our ability, but I encourage you to consider that, what it's going to do.
Thank you. Ma'am, you have to come forward to speak at the microphone. Thank you.
They had this was very confusing to everyone. They had this on TV that the only way the officers could get involved was if they saw them lighting it. And many people saw this on TV. So that was confusing too.
Which is why we keep talking about enforcement is very difficult. And this is part of the difficulty of this whole situation. Yeah. Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
Again, my name is Ruth Zanoni, and I live at Portsmouth Circle. I recognized how difficult enforcement can be and that it can pit neighbor against neighbor. And I'm not aware that there's any community mediation program here, but there could be something that you could set up a special program to mediate firework disturbances amongst neighbors. And I'm sure that we have people in this community that could help staff something like that and really open up the conversation. I think a lot of people, if they really understood the impact on their neighbors, they may do things differently.
Right. That's a very good point, that regardless of what the ordinance is or the restrictions are, people should be aware of how things are impacting people around them, and conduct themselves in a way that respects the rights of everyone to live their life free of disturbance and impact by their actions. So
Precisely, like if somebody wants to let off fireworks and heard a neighbor say, I'm really frightened for the children and their safety, and I'm really frightened about what they're learning about fire safety, they may think about things a little differently.
Right.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, well, thank you. We really appreciate all the comments, and you're taking the time to come and share your views. We will be looking at this further as time goes on here, and as I said, whatever the result is, we will do our best to make sure that everyone knows what the rules are. We didn't have a lot of time with this current ordinance to publicize the restrictions and make sure that we get them out to everyone. But there'll be more time now to make sure that everyone understands what the rules are, what the restrictions are, whatever those end up being. We use social media. We use press releases to the newspapers and the TV stations. We use our own print materials. We have a website. We try every way possible to get information out to people, and we have a communications director who that's her job. And so we will do our best to make sure everyone understands what the rules are and what the consequences are of breaking the rules, and try to come up with a way to come up with something that works for the greatest number of people possible. So thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our next agenda item. Zetzel?
Yes. Your Honor, I make a motion to receive and file correspondence in support of fireworks. This is Ruth Dolezal, 4,000 Deer Valley Drive.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to receive and file correspondence in support of fireworks from Ruth Dolezal. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve Resolution 26172, approving a professional service agreement between the City of Marion and MSA Professional Services Incorporated regarding the Lau Park South End Development Project in the amount of $66,500.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 26172, approving a professional services agreement between the City of Marion and MSA Professional Services, Inc. regarding the Lau Park South End Development Project in the amount of $66,500. Discussion?
Can Mike fill us in on exactly what this would be for?
Yes, the professional service agreement is for the next phase of Lau Park development, which consists of architectural design work, landscape design, pavilion, restroom, playground design, and then construction management services are included under the scope of this agreement.
And this would be just basically for the entrance, the south entrance, so everything right around.
Yeah, that next phase is south of the off of Irish Drive,
right.
Which includes that playground development project, if you will.
Playground, restrooms, landscape.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, other questions? And obviously this is a budgeted item.
That's correct.
All those in favor of resolution number 26172, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes.
Your Honor, I'd like to recommend approval of resolution number 26173, approving partial payment number 1 to Woodruff Construction regarding the 2017 Marion Independent School District Tennis Court Project in the amount of $368,921.70.
Second?
Okay, that's $386,000. It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 26173, approving a partial payment number 1 to Woodruff Construction related to the 2017 Marion Independent School District's Tennis Court Project in the amount of $386,921.70. So anything to add on this? This is the joint project between the city and the school district on building tennis courts, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor. The resolution in front of the City Council tonight is more for record keeping and auditing purposes. The school district is processing the payment, but we want to be consistent and make sure that all those payments go in front of the council. What we will do at the end of the project, council approved in the capital improvement projects $300,000 as the city commitment for the project. We will then at the end of the project, we will reimburse the school district for 50% of the project.
Okay. I will add this is a good example of cooperation between the city and the school district. Rather than duplicating facilities, we're joining together on building a joint facility for use by the community. So this is a good example of cooperation, I think. So, any other questions or comments? All right. All those in favor of resolution number 26173, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion passes.
Your Honor, under engineering, I have resolution 26174, approving a purchase agreement for property described as 184 8th Avenue, Marion, from Scott Bezick, associated with the Alburnett Road Extension project in the amount of $135,330. $135,330. Thank you.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 26174, approving a purchase agreement for property described as 184 8th Avenue, Marion, from Scott Bezick, related to the Alburnett Road Extension project in the amount of $135,330. Discussion?
Your Honor, the owner, during our open house for this project, approached us and was interested in selling his home because it was one of them that we would need for the alignment of the project. They were aware of the process or the program that we use that pays 130% of the assessed value, with the ability for them to waive their 6B rights for the acquisition through the normal federal process. They are willing to do that, and the price represents 130% of the assessed value. They waived the ability to appraise because they would like to move forward with the purchase and get it taken care of, and the appraisal would have taken another 30 to 45 days. So.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
This is the house on the corner of 8th Avenue and 2nd Street.
Yeah. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 26174, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes.
Yes, Your Honor, I make a motion to receive and file a TAC report regarding a request for no parking on the east side of Edgebrook Drive from 29th Avenue to 3345 Edgebrook Drive, Grant Harper, 2522 Vaughn Drive.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to receive and file a TAC report regarding a request for no parking on east side of Edgebrook Drive from 29th Avenue to 3345 Edgebrook Drive. Discussion.
Your Honor, the Traffic Advisory Committee did receive a citizen request for this. It was not staff initiated. However, we did follow up and look at the situation. Edgebrook Drive is a local street, currently has parking on both sides. The new addition portion of to the north does have no parking on the east side, so we would look at extending it to the south. However, we do see that in this location, the parking on both sides does provide for some traffic calming, but we do, as policy, recommend no parking on one side because it allows better access for emergency vehicles, snow plows, and garbage trucks. So that is our recommendation.
Right now, we're just receiving and filing, right?
Just receiving our report.
The resolution is further down. I know there are people here who are interested in this topic, so we'll, if you wanted to speak on the topic, we can do that on number 4. Would that be okay? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so any discussion on receiving and filing the report? All those in favor of the motion to receive and file TAC report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Okay, the motion passes. Mr. Brandt.
Your Honor, I make a motion to receive and file correspondence opposing the establishment of a no parking zone on the east side of Edgebrook Drive from 29th Avenue to 3345 Edgebrook Drive as followed, A through G.
Second.
Okay, so this is, it's been moved and seconded to receive and file correspondence opposing the establishment of no parking zone on the east side of Edgebrook Drive from 29th Avenue to 3345 Edgebrook Drive. Any discussion on this? Again, we're just receiving and filing the correspondence. I know we received a number of emails and communications from residents on this street. Any discussion? All those in favor of receiving and filing the correspondence in opposition to the establishment of the no parking zone, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Okay, the motion passes.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 26175, approving the establishment of a no parking zone on the east side of Edgebrook Drive from 29th Avenue to 3345 Edgebrook Drive.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 26175, approving the establishment of a no parking zone on the east side of Edgebrook Drive from 29th Avenue to 3345 Edgebrook Drive. Is there any staff report, or should we just go to the comments? Or
I would just go ahead to the comments.
Okay.
I have one question.
Yeah.
What,
Sure.
Do you off the top of your head, or do you maybe know, what's the width difference between the old and the new?
The old would be 28 and the new is 26 for
26,
our
2 foot. Okay.
for our new SUDAS.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here who wants to address the council on this topic? Again, we ask you to fill out the yellow card and come forward, state your name and address. Welcome.
My name is Nicole Green. I live at 3275 Edgebrook Drive. I understand that that's the new ordinance throughout the most of Marion to have no parking on one side. My concern with this is since this road has been opened, people have decided to use it as a pass-through street, and I know that that probably wasn't the intention originally. We have a variety of people that zip down through our street. We've requested that there be monitoring of it. In fact, we had one of your speed posts for a couple of weeks, which did bring awareness to people to slow down. I think part of the issue is when you look at Edgebrook Drive, on both sides it's a hill that comes into a valley. So in reality, if you start at the top of the hill on the new part of the subdivision and you take your foot off the gas, by the time you reach my house, you're going 35 miles an hour. If you have cars there, it encourages you to slow down. And I am sorry that it's inconvenient for people to weave in and out. And I know it's not the most efficient, but I have a 6-year-old son, a 17-year-old son, and a 15-year-old son, all of which who have been taught to look before they go out in the street. But when people come down that street and I am backing out, I may not see them right away. In addition to that, small children, regardless whether or not we want to believe that we've taught them safety, they bolt out. I know that on my side of the road that that would be the side that's no parking. So I'm not so concerned about my son stepping out and not seeing a car. But what I do have concern about are my neighbors across the street who have small children, that the other oncoming cars don't see them come out, and they step between two cars into traffic. So I understand that Edgebrook Drive is a unique situation because of the way it's built and because people have learned to use it as a cut-through, and also that it's just overall a dangerous situation for these kids. And if we've got the width of 28 feet, like you said, it's no less convenient than if you're looking at the 26 feet just a couple streets or a couple houses north. So,
Do a lot of people park on this street?
I would say that there's probably, on the whole length of our street, probably 8 to 12 cars per day that are parked on there, and it does alternate on each side of the street on where you are. And there are some areas that people do
So you're
park.
saying it encourages people to slow down?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And is there an issue with emergency vehicles if there's parking on both sides? Oh, thank you.
We can't pass through.
You can't.
Yes, but of course, it's much more easier for us with parking on one side. We've always wanted no parking or parking on one side for the fire trucks, but we don't have a problem going through that neighborhood as of this time.
I think it gets to be an issue with snow, and that type of thing, but that's short periods of time.
Okay. Sir? Can we have a show of hands of how many other people would like to address council? Okay. So if you can come forward and just kind of be ready up here, it would be helpful so that we can keep things moving.
Thank you. I'm Mike Lorenz. I live at 3180 Edgebrook Drive. And to add to what Mrs. Green noted, the parking on both sides does slow traffic coming down the hill. They do pay more attention to what's going on out there if those cars are out there. With respect to snow removal, I've lived there for 11 years. The only real challenge I've seen is at the intersection of Pebble Creek, where a snowplow doesn't get around the corner both ways well, and that's not because of parking. That's just because they don't come back around a certain way to plow it out. I haven't noticed this past winter major problems with it, and we had that street open last year to Vaughn Drive and to the other streets to the east that cut over toward Lennon Lane and whatever else is over there to the east. My concerns are within my block, the 3100 block, 3200 block. Rough count, not a formal count, I came up with about 27 children between the ages of about 17 and 2. Restricting the parking to one side, I don't think solves any problems or concerns really from a safety standpoint. I think the street is wide enough that it actually, I believe 2 cars can pass most of the time if they meet. Right now when it's restricted, there are a lot of situations with cars parked out there where I've got neighbors who have families staying with them temporarily. Those cars will be gone within a month. I don't think it's really that major a problem. And my biggest concern is really speed, not the parking. But I appreciate the time. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you very much.
Also, sorry. I was just going to say, I drove it twice in the last week at different times to see how it was. And both times there was multiple cars parked on the street. And I did have to slow down coming down the hill, slow down to get past cars that are parked side by side. So it does slow you down having the cars. Yeah, and it like she said too, I mean, you could get nice speed going down that hill.
I'm just curious, this was a request by one resident on the street? And what?
The resident, actually, the request was from somebody on Vaughn Drive.
Somebody on Vaughn Drive?
Yeah, who uses it.
Uses that street, wants to...
Yeah, a lot of this, Edgebrook is part of a larger network. Whether it doesn't really affect the parking one, sorry, Tom. It's part of one way or the other, but a lot of this area will be using this. If you look at the network as it builds out, 35th Avenue to the northeast and those neighborhoods to the northeast will use Edgebrook as part of that system and also part of Vaughn Drive as well. Just so you're aware that as the neighborhood builds out, the traffic will go up.
Okay, thanks for your patience.
Your Honor, my name is Tom Newbanks. I live at 2965 Edgebrook Drive, and I pretty much got all my thunder stolen by the rest of them here. But I would point out that I think it's a little bit unfair for somebody on Vaughn Drive, one person, that's going to affect 31 homes on Edgebrook Drive. That just doesn't make sense to me. And I think like they said, it's become a cut through. I know I have some friends that live out in condos out by the roundabout, and they drive by my house all the time. I asked them why, and they said it's a quicker than going out 35th and coming around. So I don't know. But I think we need to leave the parking as it is, because it does slow down the traffic. And I live just off 29th Avenue. We don't have a lot of kids up there, but the other end of the block has got a ton. And most of those kids have grown up with that being a dead-end street until just recently. So we'd like to see it just stay like it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the individual who made the request here? No? Okay.
Your Honor, Bob Calouse, 3340 Edgebrook Drive. I had a whole list of things to go over, but like Tom said, they've all been taken. So more than anything, I'm just here to support my neighbors in agreement with everything that's been said so far. It's totally accurate. So
thank you.
Not much more I can add.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing your support for it. Okay.
Hi, my name is Megan Abbott. I live at 3155 Edgebrook Drive. And I wanted to reiterate what everyone else has said as well, and to kind of talk to the point about the snow plows and things going through. Like, to be fair, then wouldn't you have to do that to every other street as well? Like, not every other street has, or only parking on one side. So if that's the reason that that's happening, I don't see that as being a very fair way to do that. And also for the person that requested it on Vaughn Drive, they have other avenues to take. They don't have to take our street. That's a choice that they're making, to take our street, because Vaughn Avenue or Vaughn Drive, or whatever it's called, goes right out to Indian Creek Road as well. Or they could take another. They have anywhere, unless you live right directly on Edgebrook Drive, you don't have to take Edgebrook Drive unless you want to, unless you see that as a better route. So they do have other options to go through. And again, with the children's safety, I have 3 small children that I would like to see being kept safe. And like Nicole Green said, with the hill going down, that does help to slow people down, because I myself, I found myself going faster than I would like to, going from the top of the hill. And so it just really scares me, having, if parking is only on one side, then more cars are going to pile up on that side, causing children to have to peek through the cars instead of right now. There's not really that many cars that park there. I have taken pictures of different times of the day. When we left to come here, there was 3 cars parked on the entire street. And 2 of those cars were parked there because their driveway had just gotten concrete and had to dry. So it's not a big issue of how many cars are on the street. It's mostly that we don't want them piling up on one side, causing children to have to dart through and peek out through cars. I guess that's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Jake Abbott, 3155 Edgebrook Drive. That was just my wife. To push back against your snow issues there, does Marion have a snow emergency? So you can make it a snow emergency route if you needed to?
Yeah, I wasn't speaking to the actual cleaning of the snow. As we get narrowing of our streets when the snow piles on both sides and gets into the parking, the cars get farther from the curb.
I think everyone in Marion
that was the point I was making. Yeah, and it has been council's policy to remove parking in most locations on one side. We're not doing anything unusual here, and I'm not supporting it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that in the past, our recommendation is following what council has recommended and followed in the past. There is an intent to pull parking from one side of all streets. That's why we've done it in all of our new subdivisions and in locations in most cases where we've gotten requests. That's the only reason I'm supporting it. So.
You said most cases?
Yeah, we've had a lot of these come through. We spend a lot of time on this. So.
Okay. So it sounds like one person wants it, the whole street doesn't want it. It sounds like the fire department can make it through. It sounds like snow removal isn't an issue. I'm not sure why we're discussing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have some fun. My name is Dean Thomas. I live at 3185 Edgebrook Drive. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old lives with me. Happens to be my grandsons, but nonetheless they live there. But this single-side parking is, I understand the potential need, but I also see it as providing a thoroughfare for people in terms of cutting through. The current speed sign that was put there had a speed limit posted on that. And to my knowledge, I think that's the only speed limit sign that has been placed on the street, period. Because I don't believe there is a speed limit sign on Edgebrook Drive. Consequently, when the current speed thing was posted, it would have been very easy for a resident to stand up there with a camera and take a picture of the car going by the speed limit sign greater than 30 miles an hour. It's been very easy to do so. So in terms of people obeying that speed restriction, it's not going to happen. And by doing alternate side parking, that's about the only way we as residents can get these people to slow down. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Cody Lorenz. I live on 3180 Edgebrook Drive. I do not agree with it. About the whole snowmobile, or not snowmobile, snow situation. Last year, they came down, did our street. They did about half of it and then stopped and turned onto Pebble Creek. The rest was left. They didn't do it for the rest of the year. There were cars parked up there, but there are no cars parked over on the other side towards Vaughn Drive. So I don't see what the issue is there. And again, fire department can get through there. I have multiple friends that come and they just come and join me at my place, We'll have fun there. And they really have nowhere to park on the side that we are putting the non-restricted part on. So they do have to park on both sides, otherwise there are just cars getting parked on one side and it just keeps piling up and there's too many cars on one side. And then the whole children thing, I mean, the safety of them too. I mean, I have a brother and sister. They're both younger than I am, 7 and 8. And I fear for them if this does get passed. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We appreciate all the comments and hearing from everyone. Discussion? No? Oh, I thought you were.
No, well, I went out and looked as well. I guess I'm not in favor of this motion, so.
I guess my feeling on it is, unless there's a real compelling reason, and the wishes of the majority of the neighborhood are against the motion, I understand what our policy is. Nothing is just completely black and white. I think, like I said, unless there's a real compelling reason, there should be a greater number of people requesting something to justify it or to support it. And I don't see the support here for this.
I do notice the chief taking mental notes on people talking about the speed. It's only fair I should warn you guys that often
Get a lot of complaints on both ends. The speeders, but then they don't want the tickets either. So it's a tough balance for this community.
Speed is a concern. I'm concerned, with the speed because you have so many cars parked on the street though too, and the kids darting in between cars is very concerning. What can we do to keep the speed down there? Because I get it, having cars there has probably slowed some people down, but there are some people that doesn't slow them down, and they would go right through there. And with all those cars parked on both sides, I get concerned about kids running in between cars without having.
We did receive complaints on this street. We put the speed trailer out. We did some enforcement. We're going to be stopping the people that live there too. So just you got to be careful in neighborhoods. It comes down to common sense and the responsibility on how you drive your vehicle in your neighborhoods with children, and just basic tenet of driving a car.
Okay, other discussion? We're ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor of approving resolution number 26175, approving the establishment of a no parking zone on the east side of Edgebrook Drive from 29th Avenue to 3345 Edgebrook Drive, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please say no.
No.
Okay, I think the noes have it. The motion is defeated.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
As part of item 1, I failed to bring up, you do have a report on your desk that was the asbestos report we did as part of the Albernet Road Extension Project and the bridge request that we had by Councilperson Pazur. We did do an asbestos inspection by a certified inspection person, and there was no asbestos found within the concrete structure of the building, or structure of the bridge.
Okay.
I did provide one for each of you.
No asbestos in the structure.
In the concrete, there was a little in some of the rubberized, the caulking material they have, but it's pretty minor to the structure. But there was none in the concrete.
In the concrete, which is,
Yes.
okay. Okay, well, thanks for explaining that.
Your Honor, I have Resolution 26,176, setting July 20th of 17 as a date for a public hearing regarding the request to amend Ordinance 13 and 14 of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding the hours of operation of property located along Tower Terrace Road, west of 10th Street, east of Irish Drive, west of 10th Street from Irish Drive.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 26176, setting July 20th, 2017 as the date for a public hearing regarding a request to amend Ordinance 13-14 of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding the hours of operation for property located along Tower Terrace Road, west of 10th Street and east of Irish Drive. Discussion? None? All those in favor of resolution number 26176, setting the public hearing date, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please say no. The motion passes.
Yes, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 26177, approving claim for payment number 1 to Randy Breeze, the residential tenant that has relocation from the Meyer Vet Clinic in an amount of $1,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 26177, approving claim for payment number 1 to Randy Breeze, residential tenant that has relocation from the Meyer Vet Clinic in an amount of $1,000. Discussion? All those in favor of I'm sorry?
Okay. Can you talk about it?
Yes, so this is part of the city's acquisition of the Meyer Vet Clinic. There was a tenant that lived above, and as part of the purchase and acquisition, and as provided by Chapter 6B of the Iowa Code, we're required to provide relocation assistance to those property or those tenants that are renting from property that we purchase. And this individual has relocated, and this is a part of the payment that would be made to him. I don't suspect there'll be more coming in the future from this, but there may be some ancillary ones related to moving, but it shouldn't be much. It was a pretty small apartment. So
You said you don't expect any more?
I don't expect any more. I could be wrong, but I don't expect any more. So there may be some ancillary stuff if there is moving expenses, but I can't imagine that it's too much.
Okay. Other questions or discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 26177, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. I'll be turning over the gavel to Councilman Draper for the remainder of the agenda.
I make a motion to receive and file request for tax increment financing assistance, Genesis Equities LLC.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to receive and file the TIF for Genesis Equities LLC. Any discussion on this matter? Those in favor?
Hold on, I was just going to say, can you give a little rundown on that? For some reason, I'm not finding this, and I'm having trouble locating this in the iPad right now. There's a lot of fireworks emails that I can't find everything right now. A little overview.
It's under administration, under the packet. That's why you might not be able to find it. It's page
No wonder.
5.
Okay, give me a second to find it. There we go.
It's so easy before computers.
Mm-hmm. Can't find it either. I know it's just a receive and file, but.
It is to receive and
I
file.
know. Go ahead, I'll find it. Found it. Okay. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to refresh myself on what it was.
Any other discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This time we have a public hearing regarding the disposition of a portion of city-owned property located between 26th Street and 31st Street of 8th Avenue and north of 5th Avenue, including plat and survey 2054-2055 and partial B and plat of survey number 2172 GLD. We're having discussion from the audience concerning this public hearing. In favor of? Hearing none, those opposed? Hearing none, public hearing is closed.
Your Honor, I'd like to recommend approval of resolution number 26178, approving the disposition of a portion of city-owned property located between 26th Street and 31st Street south of 8th Avenue and north of 5th Avenue, including plat of survey 2054 and 2055 and parcel B of plat of survey number 2172 GLD.
Your Honor, we're not ready for that resolution, so we don't need any action on that, so that doesn't need to be, there's no action necessary for that one. So if it hasn't been seconded, I don't think it's been put on the table, so we can just move on.
So we need to table that at this time then?
Well, it hasn't been seconded, so we can just let it die.
Hmm?
It hasn't been seconded, so we could just let it.
Well, but I think we need to, he's going to want it in the future, I would assume.
Yeah, we'll bring it back once we have a purchase agreement prepared, and we're actually in a position where we're going to need to reset the public hearing that you just held as well. We thought we'd have everything in line and the agreement would be in place, and we do not have that. So while the public hearing was held as advertised, we'll have to reset that, and we just need to bring it back so we have all the terms ironed out related to the purchase and the sale and acquisition of property associated with that public hearing. So
I would consider resolution 26178 dying of not having a second. I have resolution 26179 approving the final plat and memorandum of agreement for Prairie Hill Trail 2 additional of property located east of Echo Hill Road and west of Albernet Road, Marion, Lynn County, Iowa, Midwest Development's request.
Second.
Any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? No.
Okay. Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 261080, approving the issuance of 4 building permits prior to approval of a final plat for Briargate 6th Edition by Abode Construction.
Second.
Been moved and seconded resolution 26180. Have any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 You ready?
I'm ready.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 26181, approving the right-of-way easement for 26th Street from 7th Ave to 8th Avenue, Genesis.
Second.
Resolution 26181 has been moved. Do we have any discussion on this matter? Tom?
Just so the council's aware, we've established a right-of-way easement over 26th Street between 7th and 8th, and that's the right-of-way. It's actually been vacated and sold, but we're using it, continuing to use it for access as a street until property develops and a plan's been presented for it. So we'll need to ensure that there's a right-of-way easement over that property as that continues forward. So.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, I'll just make sure we're ready for this one, because I think this one's been tabled before. I recommend approval of resolution number 26182, approving the final plat and memorandum agreement for 13 and 151 First Edition, located at the corner of Highway 13 and 151 for Water Rock LLC.
Second.
Resolution 26182 has been approved, or been made and seconded. Do you have any discussion?
Only that I think the council's been aware, and I think it was in the chamber newsletter and the Medco newsletter of the DePaco that's proposed to go out on 13, and this is the final plat that would provide the parcel ground for that. So it's been an exciting project. If you've been out of Highway 13 north of 151, you've seen the grading that's going on. This is going to be a pretty big commercial development for the community, and this is the first phase of that. I know the developers in the audience, and so they're pretty excited about this project, and I think based on what we've seen, that's a pretty striking building that was proposed. So it's a neat project to see move forward.
Nice article in the paper today, I thought.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the council? All in favor of 26182?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? No. We now have a public hearing regarding the disposition of development agreement, the proposed development agreement from Mojo Properties, LLC. And Tom, tell us about this one.
I think Lon may have.
I'll take this one.
It's pretty short.
Mojo Properties is represented by Jason Olmstead. They are planning to acquire the former ESCO and Shermco building and complete some extensive renovations on it, converting it from office space back into more retail and commercial, but then putting housing in the upstairs. They have a plan to convert the upper floor into 4 residential condominium units with some balconettes that would extend out over the 8th Avenue side, and then complete some substantial renovations to the main floor of the building, converting it into retail and commercial space that would be suitable for retail, restaurant, but having features that face both the 11th Street side and also the alley in between 10th and 11th Street, and making a viable entrance off of the rear of the building. Total project, they're expecting it to be about $1.4 million. The assistance that the city is providing would be the equivalent of a 10-year, 90% rebate of the incremental property taxes, not to exceed $280,000 as our portion of completing the project. Overall, it's expected to take the taxable value of the building, which right now is a little under $500,000, and bring it in at, should double it, bring it in a little over $1 million.
Thank you. Anybody from the audience like to discuss this proposed development agreement? Those in favor of? Seeing none, those opposed too. Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed.
Yes, Your Honor, I have resolution number 26183, approving a development agreement with Mojo Properties, LLC, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement.
Second.
She's coming up for a different agenda item, so. Wanted to get a head start.
I thought she was practicing there. Lon, let me ask one question. Does that include, from the snug to the corner, does it include the building the chamber used to be in?
He's purchasing the building that the chamber used to be in, and we'll complete some renovations to that, but that's not part of what he continues to own. He'll continue to own. Because they're linked together with that facade, I think he's going to complete some of the exterior improvements, but then he's going to sell that piece. So what he's going to retain will be the former Shermco building.
His is the lumberyard in the 1800s.
Yeah, the old court building.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed?
Me, right? Okay. I make a motion to approve Resolution 26184, approving surveillance camera solution from Grable Communications for the Uptown Artway for $14,578.70.
Second?
Any discussion on this matter?
I know Joe had talked about the SD cards or memory cards.
Yeah,
Was that
so
ever?
they will have memory cards in them. They're going to be wireless devices, but Ryan's department will be connecting it into fiber, and so once that is completed later this summer, we will be able to access them live stream or go back a few weeks and get into the history. So we won't need the SD cards for that.
He was questioning the cost of those SD cards, and I'm again not finding this in my packet. So, oh, here we go.
Sit through the whole meeting.
Because they're like $100 or something on the.
Yeah, I believe it's a per unit cost for each of the 4 cameras that we're purchasing. So the cameras and then the boxes.
Right, but I know he was asking about the cost of those being 100, where you can go to Walmart and buy. Maybe they're a different type of card. I don't know. I mean, they're $10 at Walmart or $5 at Walmart.
I do know that these are they come as a unit with all of the equipment in it. And so if you want to postpone it for 2 weeks to look into that, we can, but I don't think that we can replace anything out of it because this is just a unit that we're purchasing.
Do you have the invoice anymore? Well, it changed, right? The price went down from the last meeting?
The price has gone down since it was on the agenda before. I'm not
Right.
sure what it was listed at the last
It was
meeting.
16 something before, I thought, but we don't have a new invoice. At least I didn't get a new invoice. Did anybody get a new invoice?
The major thing that we wanted to talk to council about is the appearance of them, I guess, while Lon's looking for the invoice. This is kind of a crude illustration, but it's not quite to scale as to scale as they could get it. They are going to be very visible, so they won't be attractive. You'll know that there's security cameras back there. We are unable to paint them black because of the heat with the sun would destroy the components inside of them. So they will have camera units and then the boxes on the poles, and there will be 4 poles with these on them. Wanted to make you all aware of that before we move forward with this purchase.
Yes, I don't see an issue with them being visible. Let people know that they're being filmed.
Yeah. Kim?
Is that a lamp or some kind of light up
Yeah,
there?
that's a light pole that we have in the alley.
So there'll be more light back there too, maybe, and.
No, these are existing.
These are
that's
existing.
The light poles are
okay, I
existing,
see.
and they're going to put the
Okay.
cameras on them.
Okay, 4 cameras.
And they have nighttime vision, so it'll
Okay.
be high quality video.
Any further discussion on the matter?
I'd like to see the invoice again.
From the 16 to the 14?
Yeah, I want to know why. I mean, Joe was questioning that at the last meeting. Obviously, he's not here to do it again, so.
Yeah, and Terrell, our IT manager, has been the one that's led this project, so I can't tell you the specifics of that.
Right.
I would assume that the invoice could be produced for the
Yes.
council, yes. Okay. All in favor? Of
Aye.
this resolution, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Everyone opposed?
I'm free at last.
Found it. I think it's the same one.
Lon, we have Mr. Barnes' proposal here. Is that something we're able to discuss since it wasn't on the agenda, or?
You can have him come up and discuss it. Obviously, you can't take any
Can't take action.
action or anything on it, but I think Mr. Barnes has been patiently waiting. I'd hate to tell him now that he wasn't going to be allowed to talk to council.
Do you want to go to the next item first, or?
Are you presenting that one?
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Sorry, Mr. Barnes.
I'll be quick. So we just wanted to brief you on the timeline for the CIP. This past year was the first year Marion's done a CIP in a number of years. And we wanted to, it was discussed during everything that we wanted more public input this year and a earlier timeline just for the development, and that we wanted to come to you with the recommendations. Staff has been meeting, all managers of capital projects have been meeting on a monthly basis, and this is what the group came up with. I'll just kind of walk you through it. It does include public input components as well as some dates that council would need to be present, which is why we want your feedback before we solidify that. So departments are already putting together project sheets for projects for future years, and you received the book current year. It'll be those same pages, so updated current projects, and then those other projects that were unfunded in the current year. And if you're okay with this timeline, we'd like to open an online call for projects on our website tomorrow and keep that open through the month of July for citizen ideas that they may have for new projects. With that, we'll also put a digital copy of our current CIP so they can see what type of projects we're already funding.
That's a good idea.
And then all through that time, as the projects come in, we'll send those out to the department so they can put the project sheets together for those citizen suggested projects. Once those are all compiled, we'll send them to council in mid to late August. So August 11th is kind of the cutoff there. So you'll be receiving that before any kind of an open house occurs. We'd like to hold the open house on August 29th, which I believe is it's a Tuesday, and it's a non-council week, so that it can accommodate everyone here. 2 weeks later, on the Thursday, we're proposing the special work session with council, similar to what we had here earlier in this current year's development, but have it a special meeting separate from the council meeting so that we can take the time to go over any projects and any questions that you may have without feeling rushed to get to a council meeting. And so our proposal is to do that on a non-council Thursday, the 14th. And the first draft of the CIP will be presented after that the first week in October. Further discussion the following meeting if necessary, and then the public hearing and adoption the first week in November, which leads us right into the operating budget. So if there are any operating impacts in any of the capital projects, those can be considered before we even start that process. So are you good with this timeline? Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Go ahead.
Any comments?
That's good to me.
Not with that timeline, but going forward, can you do a longer period for public input?
Yes, actually we discussed that, and we'd like to kind of keep it open all year so that things can come in as they come up, but really just push it before the kickoff so that we aren't pushing it all year. It can be open so people can provide that input.
So going forward, it'll always be open, basically.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Last but not least, Mr. Barnes.
My name is Tom Barnes. I live at 920 Williams Drive, Marion. I'm the current president of the Marion East Cedar Rapids Rotary Club. That would be for the year 2017-2018. My travels take me through the main street of Esterville every 2 weeks, and this is a picture of a Rotary clock on the main street of Esterville that appeared about 1.5 years ago. And I thought, gosh, might be kind of nice to have one in Cedar Rapids. I'm in the process of applying for a Rotary community grant. This is about a $14,000 project. The grant is in the process of being submitted. I need a letter of memorandum of understanding between Rotary and the city saying that if I get funded, you guys want the clock. So that's where I'm at. So I'm asking at whatever the appropriate time is that somebody signs this letter of understanding that if I get the $14,000 and I buy a clock, you guys want it. A good spot would be the current public library area. Might be the new public library might be able to have a spot. Lau Park on the square might be a good spot. The clock isn't purchased. Whoever is interested can be involved in what the clock kind of looks like. There's not too many variations, but you can get a little more gold. You can get some black. You can get some appointments on the top of it. The mayor, Nick, brought out a conflict of interest. And can I just ask who are Rotarian members? You're Rotarian members? Okay. So I will make a note to my people that there are 2 Rotarian members, so that issue has been addressed. There was another issue that our mayor, Nick, brought up to me, and that was the maintenance of the clock. And I am not able to put the maintenance in here because of Chicago corporate Rotary does not want to be obligated to the maintenance of a clock if anything happens to our local chapter, but I can guarantee you that I've been a member of this community my whole adult life, 45 years, and between myself and Greg Hapgood and a few other people, we will maintain the clock. We'll keep it clean. We'll keep the thing running. We'll keep the lights on it. I guarantee you personally that that will not be an issue, but I can't put it in writing. So anyway, if you would consider my request to sign this thing so I can submit the grant. Now, if you don't want it, don't sign it, and that'll be the end of it. So any questions?
Well, I appreciate the time you've put into this, and you're wanting to do this on behalf of the city. So, but we can't take action today.
I understand.
It has to be on the agenda.
Okay.
And then, so possibly the next meeting, Lon, with that? Yeah.
I'd sure appreciate it. So,
Tom, do you have a
comments
deadline?
from Mr.
When does
Barnes?
it have to be in?
I have a deadline like yesterday. So if you can give me an inkling that's not official until the next meeting, I'd appreciate it. So.
Are 2 Rotarians not able to vote on this, you think?
Well, I don't know. I'll go ask that question, okay?
Because I would be a yes.
But Nick brought up a very good question. I need to go call somebody. So.
Beautiful clock. I like it.
Yeah.
My only question would be, I mean, you said you'd take care of it. Is it going to be, I mean, there's going to be power to it, obviously.
I have to request that the city
pay for the electricity for it.
Which I don't think is any more than a cell phone charger that none of us go around and plug in our houses, so at least I don't.
Is that something that you can find out about the clocks?
I'll find out what the amperage draw is.
You got to be careful. You're talking to an engineer. He'll come back and tell us how to build the damn thing.
Yeah, we're going to stick back in.
Okay, so I will answer the question on the current usage, and I'll answer,
Yeah, I
I'll
guess-
find the question about the conflict.
And
of
if there's
interest.
any other cost to the city?
Not that I know of.
That's the question,
What about
I guess.
installation?
We're gonna dig the hole, pour the concrete,
You'll hire that all, and do it all, okay.
well, it's all volunteer work with the club. I mean, I gotta, being the president, I gotta find something for the troops to do, and so,
Thanks, Tom.
okay, thank you.
Just a quick follow-up. I looked up the specs for those memory cards, and it looks like they are designed to be resistant to temperature extremes since they're in something that's outside, and they do carry a 3-year warranty. That doesn't mean that there might not be less expensive alternatives out there available. We'll have Terrell up in IT do a little research and see if there are ones out there that could be had for lower cost. But they're not a standard memory card.
Good to know. I would assume they would have been something different in there, but, yeah.
Okay. Discussion? Oh.
I was just gonna say, can you still get us a copy of that invoice, the final invoice for it?
Yeah, it was in the one of the last council packets, so we'll re-forward it.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Oh, yeah. I have a couple items, Your Honor. The county is going to be voting on what form of election they're going to have for the 3 new supervisors. And I would, those of us who have been around long enough to remember when we had 3 supervisors before, they lived a block and a half apart in Cedar Rapids. And to me, that's unacceptable, and I would like to have us consider making a stand on item number 3, which we would have a ward situation as the people voted for on the council, where we would have a ward supervisor. And we do now, and Marion has appreciated greatly from that. So I think the city can, but I would like to have the council consider endorsing that 3rd choice on the thing, so we can go from there.
Can we do that?
Yeah, you can, as a council, take a policy position on something like that. It's just something, obviously, individually, you can do it as council members, but the council can take a policy stand as well.
Okay.
Well, the other thing I have, Your Honor, it's been a trying week, and it's 7:37, and for some reason I'm remembering prohibition I talked about last week. And what I didn't say last week that I wanted to is that Weber Paint and Smitty's Shoe Repair was a pool hall. Not like you hear about River City, but it was a pool hall, and if you go in Weber's Paint today in the back there, you can see an area black in the area that was walked around. Well, during the period of time you couldn't buy alcohol, they used that facility, and the boys that were selling it would be out in the pool hall, and you would give them your $20 or whatever, and the alcohol was hidden in the toilet tanks in the men's bathroom. And that came from Layden Ford, former chief, and I thought that was a pretty interesting thing. The other area was in the park. There was a bandstand in the middle of the park, and they would hide the booze under that bandstand and stand around somewhere near the drinking fountain, and you would pay them and then go and get your booze. So, not like me, I'm going to go just buy one at the bar tonight. I don't have to worry about it.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Meeting is adjourned.